Two, one. Lovely.
Hi, and welcome back. We have a special edition. We have an interview with former Nebraska football player Jacob Herbek and future med student. We know
Yes, indeed.
congratulations, you got accepted into med school. How are you,
I
Jacob?
did. I did. Oh, I'm doing well. How are you fellas? Happy to join the
Uh,
show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
happy to have
Hi,
you.
we're happy to have you on.
Yeah.
So the first question that I'm really interested in, because obviously we went to a small high school in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about your kind of recruiting process. Were you getting recruited by a lot of Division two NAIA schools, and then how did Nebraska kind of sway you?
So, the majority of my recruiting process was around D2 schools, FCS schools. Like I had like a couple of walk-on offers. I think I had Northwestern and I had Nebraska for Division One. But uh, I don't know. I mean, it was Nebraska. That was my dream school. It's the school I grew up being like a huge fan of. Like, you ask 7-year-old me, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, I want to be a Husker football player. So I knew that it was going to be like an uphill battle once I got there because, I was a walk on and I was undersized and I came from a smaller school. So, I wasn't quite used to, I mean, you're not going to be used to that level of competition coming in from anywhere. But, coming in from a Class C size school as it was, like, it was going to be a battle, but I couldn't turn it down. It was my dream school. So, and I also, we talked about med school earlier. I knew I wanted to be a doctor at that point too. And I knew that Nebraska was going to give me a good shot at doing that as well.
Hmm.
So, like, kind of just like talking about that, like you said, most kids, I say most because I was not really one of those
Yeah, I
kids.
know. What's wrong with
Most kids growing up in Nebraska just dream to be a Husker.
Yeah.
So when you like talked to, I think at that time was it Riley, Coach
No, no,
Riley,
no, no. That was Coach Frost.
Coach
That
Frost.
was Coach
So
Frost. Yeah. So my senior year of high school was his first year at Nebraska.
okay, so you
And
missed
so
Riley.
So
yeah, no, I was never a part of that, although he didn't really like to recruit in state anyway, so I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have gotten the opportunity with him. But uh what was the question again? Sorry.
Just like, yeah, no, just like how are you feeling when Coach Frost offered you that walk on opportunity?
Oh, I was juiced. In my head, I was like, okay, like obviously we're rebuilding. His first year, we were like 4-8. I was like, okay, whatever. But next year, bowl game. Year after that, we're gonna be competing for the Big Ten championship. Year after that, I'm thinking, I mean, why not a natty or something like that? Like that
Yeah.
was what was going through my head my senior year. I was like,
you're
girl, we're
drinking
gonna be on the up
Kool-Aid.
and up. This is gonna be the most. I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I was so excited. And there was an Iowa fan in my class, and so I remember like
Yeah, Paul Noble, right?
talk. Yeah, I remember talking smack to him and being like, "Hey, you got us this year, but I'm not losing to Iowa once while I'm there." And
Oh,
yeah, that didn't happen.
that's okay.
Yeah, it didn't go as planned, but I was so excited to be a part of it, and you know, I'm happy I was. Like it was a life changing experience, one of a kind type thing.
And if I could jump in here too, like, what is it like just having all these different college coaches reach out to you, and like, kind of, what's your thought process? Obviously, you wanted to be a med student, so that played a factor into
Yeah,
it. Some other factors that could have played into it too.
yeah. I mean, for me, it was I wanted to win football games. So that was part of it, especially with like a lot of like the D2 level schools and stuff like that. I was looking at places that were high level schools, for that level of football. And, the coaching staff, like how and like what were they looking at with me? And at the D2 level, scholarships aren't like full scholarships either. So that was another thing to take into account. Like what percentage of a scholarship is it, and same with FCS. It was like, okay, well, what percentage of a scholarship are they going to offer me and stuff like that. And facilities, those matter. But yeah, a lot of it was just based on, game day visits, official visits, like getting a feel for the schools that way, getting a feel for the coaching staff, how they operate, what are their facilities like, what's the fan base like? Like, do they have a lot of fan support? Are their crowds going to be sold out? I'm used to when I went to football games, I was going to Nebraska football games. So I'm saying like sold out crowds, a lot of fan support, that type of deal. But that's kind of what I was looking at. Obviously, I knew that I was probably didn't have a future in the league or anything like that. So as far as like NFL prospect type stuff, I wasn't really all that concerned about that. But I know like one thing that I did look at with Nebraska that helped separate it was that I felt that they were going to be able to make me into the best football player that I could be, like even if my future wasn't going to lie in the league, I still wanted to be as high level of a player as I could be. And I knew that their staff and their strength program and all that stuff was going to be able to help make me into, you know, the best player that like help me reach my full potential. Basically, that's what I was going for.
Yeah, and you're kind of already alluding to the next question, but like, what is the day-to-day life like as a student athlete? What time are you waking
Oh
up, going
man,
to bed, and then
especially because of your walk on. Like,
yeah,
how were those
yeah,
classes
well,
too? You were a nutrition major, I believe.
yeah, yeah,
So
nutrition. It was so it could vary a lot, and it varies on time of year. Your major, that's another huge thing, right? Because if you're going to be like criminology or something and you're playing football, you got your football stuff, and then you really have to spend much time with school. I was pre-med, so I had to spend a lot of time on school as well. But usually, I'll go with like an in-season schedule, and I'll go with my most recent one last year because that was, I mean, it's fresh in the memory. It changes year to year, but
yeah,
usually you're getting up probably 5:45, 5:30, 5:45 in the morning because we had morning practices. We did that all throughout college. And so I'd be getting up about that early in season, getting to the stadium, eating breakfast, getting, ready to go for practice, getting the pads on, going to meetings, all that type of stuff. Practice is at 8 or so, 8, 9 o'clock, kind of depending on the day. If it's a morning practice, if you're having afternoon practice or night practice, the whole schedule changes. We did all sorts of stuff last year, but mostly we did morning practices. And so you go practice. And then after practice, you got like, it's probably like 11, 11:30, eat lunch, go to class. You're at class for a couple hours. 4 o'clock, you got meetings again. You got meetings, you got dinner, and you usually have more meetings after dinner, or you're going to watch film on your own because you got to get prepared for the next opponent. You can't just, you got to watch them too. You got to scout, you got to do stuff outside of your set meeting time if you want to be fully prepared. And so I'd probably leave the facility 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then go home, go to bed, try to get to bed by 10 and restart it the next day. So it was a full schedule. It was a very busy schedule.
yeah. It sounds like you were pretty busy. I'm gonna kind of just allude, kind of like my first thought off of this was Nebraska kid playing Nebraska football. What was your
Mm-hmm.
first like memory stepping foot on that Nebraska field wearing a Husker
Ooh,
helmet and like talk about your kind of emotions there?
man, so it's kind of tough to say because like my first, so for the process for me is probably a little different than a lot of guys. So for like my freshman year, you could have like I think it was maybe 75 to 90 guys on the sideline, and we had like 150 guys on our team. And so a lot of yeah, so a lot of like the younger walk-ons and stuff, like we didn't even get to be on the field at first. I was by halfway through the season, I was redshirting, so I was able to be in like a jersey on the field and stuff like that. You kind of earned that through how you were practicing, scout team, things of that nature. But that first tunnel walk, absolutely electric. First tunnel walk with like the pads and stuff on when you're actually going to be on the field. And that's a whole different story, like the adrenaline is just pumping. Like it's just, it meant all, it lived up to the expectation. I'm sure a lot of you guys at least have probably seen the video. It was pregame for Colorado. Coach Will gets up there, gives his speech. The boys get hyped. They play music. You run out onto the field. They got crowd is roaring, like smoke, all that stuff, and fireworks. And that feeling that video gives you is about as accurate a feeling as you can get probably going in, like, and stuff. At least with me, because I was just getting juiced up watching it. So I'm assuming that's how other people feel and they see it too. And so like that's about the same feeling as running out on that field for a game day for like during the tunnel walk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially like I think the last one. I mean, that was probably the best one, just because hold on. Dog's getting into stuff she shouldn't be getting into.
Gotta take care of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. Here she
Oh,
is in all her glory.
Oh,
oh, look at that.
Dottie.
So pretty.
Yep, she's a cutie. But I mean the last one probably I mean that one and there was real tears in my eyes for that one just because it meant so much. Because it was just like, the last time I'd ever get to go through that tunnel, last time I'd get to live that dream and all that. So
Yeah. You were a part of a very iconic and actually historical Nebraska team. That 2021 3-9 team. That
yeah.
point differential, weren't you guys like within single
Oh,
digits?
yeah.
so we had a
Like talk about
positive
that
point
season.
differential. Yeah, the stat there is we had like a positive plus minus, and we went 3-9. And every single one of our losses was a one score game, except for Ohio State. And that was, I think, or it was 9 points. So it was as close to a one score game as you could get. Uh, yeah, that was a really weird season because you go into every game like thinking you're gonna like this is the one, like we're winning this game, like this is where we change the tides a little bit, and it just never happened. At least with me personally, I never like got down on us as a team throughout the year, even after we had been eliminated from bowl contention. I still thought like every game, like we're prepared, we practice well, like we're going to go out and we're going to win. And then something would go wrong and just couldn't pull it out. It sucked. It's tough just going in, giving your all, losing by, a point or two every time. Didn't matter who the opponent was. Either it was like top five teams like Michigan State when we played them, Michigan, Ohio State, like all, those guys competed our asses off. Like coulda, shoulda, woulda won any one of those games. And then you go to some of those other teams that we played. I'm blanking on the schedule to be honest with you, but like in games that you should win and you still have one score losses. So it is really frustrating. Uh, it's kind of a cool fact to say that I was a part of that team, but
Yeah.
would have loved to pull out some more victories and stuff. So
What
I
was
watched.
what was the
I watched.
environment like inside that locker room and with the team throughout that season? Because when you're losing by one score, I mean, it's kind of hard to keep
yeah,
my spirits going into like the next game and the next game.
we had a lot of like we had a lot of like savvy vets, I guess you could call them. Like we had a lot of like fifth and sixth year guys, especially on the defense, as we had a really good defense that year. And so I can speak to the defensive side of the ball better than I can the offensive side of the ball, but morale overall was probably not as bad as you would have thought it was. Like people kept their heads up on the defensive end because we were playing well and we knew that we were going to give ourselves a chance to be in every single game. So it was like, we were going into every game thinking we're going to win. And obviously by the end of the year, it's getting to be kind of a drag and it's mentally draining on everyone when you're just not finding success. But guys are still practicing hard. Like we were still approaching the game professionally. And yeah, it didn't feel like a bad locker room. Was it a perfect locker room? Obviously not. I think if we have a great locker room, we'll probably pull out some of those games. But I think for the most part, guys are, keeping their heads up, talking positively about it. But, that's also who knows what type of conversations you're having when you get back to your, apartment or your house and all that stuff with your roommates, things like that. Like who knows? But for the people that I was around and the people that I was, close with, like we had our heads up and we continuously were thinking like, we're going to win the next one. We're going to win the next one, that type of thing.
So,
So,
you had three different coaches during your tenure in Nebraska. What was that like for the players? Because I know, stability is a huge part when it comes to football.
yeah,
So did you feel stable at all, or did it feel rocky?
it, I think, I mean, obviously the last, like, I guess 2 seasons I was there was kind of a wild ride because, you know, Coach Frost gets fired partway through the season. I remember I was like studying for, which class was it at the time? I was studying for some exam and I saw it on Twitter first. Before we got a Teamworks message about it, I got a Twitter notification saying Coach Frost has got fired. And I was like sitting there like, what the hell? Like, what do we do
And
now?
that's how the
What
news
do
is
we
broken to
do?
you.
Yeah, that's how I found out about it. We got a Teamworks message like a minute later telling everyone we got a team meeting. It was like a long message about, hey, Coach Ross got fired. Here's what we're doing. We have a team meeting, like a meeting to address the team at like, I don't remember, it was like 4 or something that day, like after classes were over. And I was just like, what? Like, I can't believe this is happening. But so that transition, Mickey Joseph did a great job about keeping the locker room together and keeping guys locked in and kind of keeping everyone's heads where they needed to be. Uh, Kind of sucks what happened with him after the season, but like during the season and stuff, it was like he did a great job of like keeping the locker room together and keeping guys ready to go and keeping guys competitive and all that stuff. And you see
Oh,
that with the way we finished the season with a win over a ranked. I don't know, maybe they weren't ranked, but we had a big win against Iowa at the end of the year, even though we were
yeah.
already out of bowl contention and stuff like that. But
And
I mean,
so when
every coach does things differently. Their practice schedule, the way they want lifting to go, all of it, conditioning, how meetings are run, all that stuff. It's all entirely different. So there's adjustments that come with it.
Yeah, and when Frost did get fired, like you said, it was mid-season. I
Mm-hmm.
can't tell you the exact date that was, but I'm assuming you guys had a game on Saturday. So it
Yeah,
was,
yeah, you
yeah,
got to
what
keep
was how
playing.
was that like?
I Man, I'm trying to remember so I can give you like a good answer for that. But I mean, I think you just keep on trucking. Like you keep on doing what you can do. You just you gotta practice schedule. You show up, you practice hard, you prepare for the game as though you're preparing for any other. You kind of have to put all the chaos that's surrounding you. You kind of have to put it to the side. Like you just kind of have to focus on what's next and take it one step at a time. Because if you get lost, in the media or what fans are saying or anything like that, like you're not going to be focused on the game, and the game's not going to go the way you want it to go. You
Yeah.
know, and like with coaching changes, I think I had like 3 different defensive line coaches while I was there. And like I think honestly, position coach changes can affect you on a personal level just as much, if not more, than a head coaching change because technique's different. Like you got to break all your old habits, form all the new habits, and like that was kind of crazy too from that
Yeah.
perspective.
I know it more than the other guys do just because I know you personally, but you did go through a lot. You went through 2 different position changes. You went in
Yeah.
as defensive lineman, correct?
So
Moved
I went
tight
in as a
end,
tight end. I went in
tight
as a
end.
tight end. They moved me to defensive line, and there was during fall camp. I think it was going into that 2021 season where we went through 9. I think there was a bunch of injuries in the tight end room, and they were down to like 3 guys, and so they like needed more bodies, and they're like, hey, like, can you come back? Like, we need guys over here, and I was like, yeah, sure. So I went back there for like a month and a half, 2 months, and played tight end again. So that was a little weird, especially with that second stint because I spent enough time in the tight end room to kind of start because it's entirely different like mentality, offense, defense, like the way you're playing, your technique. It's all like almost opposite. Blocking a guy and trying to dominate a block on the defensive side, entirely different technique. So it's like right when I'm starting to get my footing at tight end, they're like, hey, we need you back on the D line. And I'm like, okay, I'll go back. And that transition was a little funky, but I don't know, just keep on doing, you keep on playing hard, control what you can control and all that stuff. But it was
Yeah.
kind of fun. It was kind of fun having a little switch up like that, getting to catch a football again.
And
Yeah,
so I'm gonna cut in again. I'm sorry, guys. I keep just
Yeah.
blabbing. But I remember I saw you right after you left Central. I was
Hmm.
probably eighth grader
Okay.
when you left because I remember you played high school basketball with Isaac your senior year.
Yep. Yep.
And then saw you like maybe 2 years after you came back and you were lifting in the gym and you
Hmm.
looked huge. Talk about like kind of your training process and like what the Nebraska put you through. Because I think I remember you telling me you
Oh
were
man.
in the mid 200s in terms of weight.
Yes.
Like
I
like
was
what was the highest you got up and like
mhm.
talk about like your lifting and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I got up to about I mean, I was 210 pounds when I went to Nebraska, which was why I started out as a tight end because that's tiny for a defensive lineman.
Mhm.
And I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to put on enough weight. But I think over the course of that first year and a half, 2 years, I got all the way up to 275. And that was my peak. I typically played around 265, but 275 was like my peak. I think the highest number I ever got on the scale was 276 exactly. And I remember that because I was like, holy cow, like I'm huge now, which was still undersized for our defensive line, but it was so much, it was so much bigger than I was. They worked really hard to get there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just a lot of really hard lifting and eating until I was sick, basically. I don't think there was one meal I actually wanted to eat for those like first 2 years because I was so full all the time. Like like my parents would come to games and be like, hey, like we want to take you out to eat afterwards. And I was like almost begrudgingly saying, yeah, okay. Like, and they're like, well, what do you want to eat? And I'm like, I have no
Nothing.
idea because nothing sounds good right now because I was just full all the time because I had to gain 60 pounds. So
Yeah.
that was really hard. But like, I mean, the lifting that we were doing under Duval was, it was really hard. Like it was grueling. Like we were doing metabolic circuits. We were doing all types of like really heavy lifting. And, it just put a lot of weight on me. I approached the lifts. I embraced the coaching on that part of it. I embraced the coaching on the nutrition end of it with our nutritionist at the time, Dave Ellis, and they got me to the point where I was just able to put on pounds, and I had a good frame too. Like I had the frame to put on weight as well, so that made it, possible to begin with.
Yeah.
Now,
But yeah,
I've seen some videos of the Husker strength and conditioning, and that just looks
mm-hmm.
you got guys squat max and you got the whole team in there cheering them on.
Oh
Do you
yeah.
carried over to game days? Because I mean, I have to imagine it would.
I guess rephrase that again, like the lifting carrying over to game days.
Yeah, like how
Yeah.
would the energy from there carry over onto Saturdays?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, as hype as you're going to be when you're with your boys hitting the squat max or whatever, you're going to be twice as hype when they're making plays on the field. So it's like obviously you work so hard in the off season. Like the whole off season is a grind in itself. It's a different grind than in season, but it's a grind in itself. And you're putting in all this work in the weight room and in conditioning and like through fall camp, getting yourself as prepared as possible to play in these games. And so when you finally get to hit the other team, like when you're finally there's a different color jersey in front of you other than your own, like it's electric and it's so fun. And every time your boys are making plays, you're gonna get hype on the sideline. It's and it's electric. It is. And especially when you're winning games too. A great sideline, you're gonna be hyped up on both ends, but there's just another level when things are going well and guys are making plays and especially if it's a home game because like the crowd is roaring and you're feeding off of that, and so it's great. And then especially like I'd say like this like that my last year there was the best sideline that I was a part of, and it was just because they did such a good job of like having like old guys and new guys like coming together, forming a brotherhood. It was one of the closest teams I've ever been a part of, and it was like, and so that was electric. Everyone was happy for everyone's success. Yeah, it was really fun, honestly.
Yeah, and you're talking right now about like an energetic crowd and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when it's at home and they're all cheering for you, it's great. How is that on the road? What's it like preparing for those
Oh,
games? I've seen the videos of Colorado wheeling around, speakers playing the other teteam's fight song.
mm-hmm.
What were you guys doing to prepare for big road games?
They did honestly the same thing. A lot of so like I remember like last year with Wisconsin, they do this thing. I think it's in the third quarter. They play jump around, and the whole stadium's jumping around, singing the song, rapping the song, all that stuff. And so the entire week during practice and lifts, they only played jump around on full blast, like the whole time. 2 hours of practice, you're just hearing jump around on repeat. You're go from practice to lift after practice, and they're just playing jump around. And so they're just every staff kind of has their own way of like getting guys acclimated to the road games. Like sometimes they'll just bump in like crowd noise and stuff, like during some like team periods and stuff. Like they'll just have crowd noise blaring from speakers and things like that. So like the offense can get used to, not being able to hear their calls and communicate as well, get used to that part of it. But yeah, and that's kind of just what you do. You gotta during practice, you got to try to simulate the noise to get you ready for game day, especially, on the offensive end because they're at home, it's quiet. You can communicate, you can make all your adjustments and stuff like that. But if it's a really good road crowd, then, it's really hard to do. It's hard to, hear the play call, hear the snap count, get the play call from your coaches and all that. So it's, although we were using signals, because they didn't have the earpieces and stuff last year. And so that part, you still get the call and stuff like that. But like the on-field communication is so much different,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're already kind of touching on the next question too with but what is it like going into big games? I know Nebraska's got a big game this week at Indiana.
Huge.
How
Who'd
is
have
the
thought?
Not
Yeah.
me.
No, not me.
How is
Who would
the
have thought the Hoosiers were fighting for a
preparation?
spot in the playoffs?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I'm excited though. This is as good. This is a huge opportunity for us, as a program, getting a win against the top 20 team on the road. I mean, that'd be massive. But back to the question. What was it going again?
Yeah, just like how is the vibe and preparation different for the for a big game? Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at maybe going on the road to Ohio State versus
Yeah.
like in North Dakota. Just how is that?
I mean, ideally, right? You want to prepare for every game the same because you're preparing on such a high level that it's like, doesn't matter who the opponent is. It's about us, Coach Rule's big about that. Coach Frost was big about that. Coach Mickey was big about that. It's about us. Like, what are we doing to prepare? If we play our game, we'll win, And I was listening to some of the Indiana coaches' press conference too. It says the exact same thing. It's like the opponent's irrelevant. It's about us. What are we doing to prepare? And so the general flow of things is the same, but there might be like a bit more of a sense of urgency because that the opponent is, the level of the opponent you're playing, even though it is about, you and your team and how you're preparing. There's going to be a little bit of a different approach. Like there's going to be more of a sense of urgency. You might spend a little bit more time, preparing by watching film or whatever, you're going to want to be able to put your best effort out there. And you want to do that every game, but there is just something a little bit extra, like the way guys will approach a practice. It might be putting in just like a little bit more into some of those team periods and like indie periods and stuff like that. But it's not, the difference is there, but it's not like crazy because if you have a well-run program, you're going to prepare well for every team, not just the big ones.
Mm-hmm. That kind of takes us to the last little segment we're going to kind of do today.
Mm-hmm.
How you do some pick'ems.
Oh, let's go.
We do them on our show, and we're going to kind of let you kind of do them. So the first pick'em is obviously the game you're probably going to care the most about this week, Nebraska, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are going to be like the defining factors of this game, and then who do you think gets the win?
I think this is gonna be a great game. Obviously, I think Nebraska is gonna win. Those are my guys over there. So I do think we're honestly gonna win this game. I think so. I'd take Nebraska money line definitely against the spread. 6.5 is kind of crazy, but I think that it's gonna be their offense versus our defense. Like we have a great defense, one of the best in the nation. And I think right now they have the number 2 statistically. They have like the number 2 offense in the country, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's number 2.
So it's really going to be a matchup of a great offense versus a great defense. Are we going to be able to put pressure on Curtis Rourke? Is our D-line going to dominate like they have been, helping our secondary out? Our secondary has been playing well, but as good as their passing game is and as talented like quarterback and receivers they have, we're going to have to be able to make an impact on the defensive line, making hits on the QB, disrupting the run game, forcing them to be one-dimensional. And then obviously we have to get some more out of our special teams, because I think at the end of the day, it's probably what it's going to come down to. I think our defense is going to play their game and we're going to slow them down. Their defense is solid, but it's nothing that I think our offense should have a good game. And I think, granted, it's going to be the most difficult atmosphere we've played all year because we've only played on Purdue or at Purdue. That was their only road game. And, Purdue's crowds that almost looked like a home game from some of those pictures. So I know
Yeah.
they're supposed to be sold out. We'll see how many of those fans are Nebraska fans because we do travel that well. But it'll be a hostile environment with a true freshman quarterback, and so it's gonna be interesting to see how he performs. He's the most poised, like true freshman I've ever seen. And from talking to the guys, like everything you see in the media about how poised and how like unbelievably as a true freshman holds true in the locker room and all that stuff. Like guys are like, this dude he's different. He's legit. And so it'll be interesting to see if he's phased at all, by
Mhm.
the crowd and by the road environment. But I think our offense should be able to put up some points on their defense. And I think our defense is going to slow down their offense. So it probably ends up coming down to, is our special teams cleaned up? We can't get blocked field goals. We can't have blocked punts. And we need to get some of those, we need to block some punts. We need to block some field goals.
Yeah.
So if we play well though, if we clean up our special teams and our defense does what they should do, I don't see a way that we lose this game. I think, and they're a top 25 team. Obviously, I think we should be top 25 as well. But yeah, I'm taking Skurs all the way.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points. I know Tyler is the biggest Nebraska football fan here out of
Yeah,
anybody.
let's
So
go.
he can
Somebody has to
attest.
represent on this pod.
So he can
Since you're
definitely
since you're
attest
not going to
that
do it, Jack. Come on, it's
this is
football.
a
You guys
this
don't
is a
even
game
have
where
football.
Raiola needs to show up. Tyler, how about you give your final thoughts? I know this is like the last time we'll be talking about Nebraska before the game tomorrow. So what are you excited to look out for?
Yeah, and I'll just keep it quick. I think Nebraska has the better trenches going into this game, and I think our run game is going to be able to really help Dylan Raiola settle into the game and be able to just take a lot of pressure off of him, which is always good when you have a true freshman going on the road. I am excited and a little nervous for our defense going into this game. They've played a lot better since the Illinois game, and they've gotten a lot better, but we definitely have to be able to generate pressure without blitzing as much too, so we can keep some guys back in coverage, kind of what helped us win the Colorado game. But I think
Hey, we
I think
got the
Nebraska's
sack man
got
to
it.
do that. James Williams.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely gonna be a very fun game. The spread was 6.5 last I looked.
Yeah.
I've been very vocal that I think Indiana is going to be able to get this done at home.
Talk to me,
So
Jack.
I know
Dude,
I
you're
know
the
we're only
biggest
talking
hater.
about it,
Come on.
Jacob, but if Nebraska gets the win, I will wear my brightest red shirt on the next
No,
podcast. So
hey, hold on. Tyler, do you got a Nebraska jersey? You got to have something.
So the best I got here is it's basically the same thing as a Dylan Raiola jersey.
Oh yeah, basically.
that'd be
I don't
painful.
know. You're gonna have to get some Nebraska gear. At the very least, wear a hat or something. I mean,
I'll find some Nebraska thing to wear if the
I'd ship a
Huskers
jersey
do
to you,
beat.
but
If the Huskers do beat Indiana, we'll definitely do something. I'm
I
going
will
to stick
say,
with my
Jack,
prediction. I think Indiana's going to win that game.
Indiana's going to win
it'll be
that
a
game.
great one. That's for sure. Oh,
It'll be a
come
lot of fun.
on.
I mean,
The
hey, I grew up an Indiana fan. You can't have me pick against Indiana.
I understand, but
I also
Oh,
I love their quarterback. I'm with you. I think this will be the best game of the week,
oh
in all
man,
honesty.
I think
I
Curt
their
Cignetti is
quarterback's been
a very good
unbelievable.
coach
He's
too.
been awesome. And like Jack said, it's because of Sig. I mean, he led
Oh
James
yeah,
what a 12-0 season last year. Like he's a
he wins
game manager.
everywhere he goes.
Yes, he is
Yeah, if
really
you look
good.
at everywhere he's been, that guy does not know how to lose. Like
Oh, not at
it's
all.
like not even a possibility for him.
It's ridiculous
Mhm.
how he prepares his teams for games. And I think, like you said, the
Hmm.
biggest thing for me that I see going into that game is this is Rayola's first like real road test, in my opinion. Like
It
it's
is. It
I
is.
I'm very much interested to see how he will look in that game with. I mean, Indiana's crowd in my lifetime has never been anything to worry about, but obviously this is a
Hmm.
different team. This is a different season, and I think it'll be interesting to see what that place will be like going into that game.
Yeah,
Honestly,
and from
or
you
you can
go.
go.
Go ahead. No,
I
you
was
got
gonna
it.
I was gonna say I think Raiola is the key to the game. If he plays well, I think Nebraska wins. And I think if he plays well, I think they are gonna blow him out. Honestly,
Okay,
Nebraska's
come
got a good
on.
team. Hey,
He's
I
just
think
saying that because
Indiana's
his dad got on him for picking
no.
against Nebraska.
I am still I'm still sticking with Indiana, but I do think if Dylan Raiola has a good game and the crowd does not affect him, that's just going to juice up every other aspect of the Huskers, and I think they'll get it done.
Should be a lot of fun. See you bright and early here tomorrow, Tyler. 11 o'clock.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot
Hey.
wait.
That's definitely going to be a fun game. What most people consider the game of the week is number 5 Georgia at number 1 Texas. Give us
Hmm.
your little breakdown. The spread's Texas -4. What are you thinking just like off the top of your head?
I think Texas is going to cover that. They've looked like a monster, and Georgia's had some hiccups. Like they've been. I'm going to pull up their schedule real quick, but they haven't been the same Georgia that you expect them to be going into the year. Like they've had struggles. And obviously they have that loss against Alabama. They almost lose to Kentucky. Like that was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let's see what else have we got here. Mississippi State. I mean, they shouldn't. I don't think Mississippi State. They shouldn't be hanging with them. Like that shouldn't have been a close game for the 3 quarters that it was a close game. Like they're looking very human right now as far as Georgia teams go, and Texas has looked like the best team in the nation. They're ranked number one, and they should be ranked number one. They haven't slowed down at all for anybody, especially with that absolute dismantling of Oklahoma. Like that was incredible. And they don't even need their starting QB to do it. Arch Manning looks amazing as it is.
Yeah, we are kind of, I think, all on the same page with this game. I remember I definitely picked Texas. I think we all picked Texas to win this game, so we all have a similar thought process. Now, a game that we did differentiate from each other was the next game, Alabama at Tennessee.
Oh
Alabama,
yeah.
a nail after a great win at Georgia. They follow that up with a loss to Vandy and then barely snuck past South Carolina. And they're going to Tennessee this weekend. What are your kind of thoughts right there? I know Bama's favored by they're -3 right now, according to ESPN, but give us your thoughts.
I think Bama's gonna pull it off. I do. Tennessee's I mean, they're really good. And the way Bama's been playing, there's no reason that they can't win. But I think if I'm remembering correctly, Nico's kind of been struggling a little bit lately for them. Like he hasn't quite looked as money as he did at the early in the year. So they're going to need a great game out of him. And Alabama's still Alabama. Like they've had their struggles the last couple of weeks, and like the second half of Georgia wasn't pretty for them either. But I just don't see them continuing on this, struggle bus. I just can't see it. DeBoer's a good coach. That's another guy like Spaghetti who just wins everywhere he goes. If you look at his record, everywhere he's been, wins, and he does it really quickly. And he's taking over a ready-made program. So I don't see them continuing to struggle. So this week's as good as any for them to get back on the horse.
Yeah, I agree. I think this game is going to be just as fun to watch as the Georgia-Texas game and the Nebraska-Indiana game. Now, the last game we have for you are two teams that you don't like very much. You played them a few times in your time in the Big Ten. Number 24, Michigan at number 2, Illinois. Michigan's favored by 3.5. But what are your kind of thoughts going into that game? I know Michigan hasn't looked good all year.
This could go either way, but I think similar to Nebraska, Indiana, Michigan's defense has been really good. Like they've been really good. Their offense leaves a lot to be desired. Like there's not a lot going on over there, but Illinois' offense, they can put up points. I mean, they diced us up better than anyone else has, and so
they put up 50 against Purdue last week.
Exactly. And Luke Altmaier's looking like he's looking like a really good QB right now. Nobody's talking about him, but he's looked money so far, and so that's going to be a very interesting matchup because I think Illinois' strength is their offense. Their defense isn't bad, but I mean, Purdue just put up 49 on them. So they obviously aren't that great of a defense. So it's going to be kind of a similar matchup where it's going to be a really good defense versus a really good offense and a kind of struggling offense versus although our offense, Nebraska's isn't struggling too bad. We're just not hitting the gas pedal like I kind of hoped we would be. But yeah, it's Michigan's offense is struggling. Illinois' defense is coming off a bad showing against Purdue. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think I'm going to roll with Illinois because you said it's a home game for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Illinois at home. I think the home field advantage will be the difference there, but it really could go either way. Like I don't like that pick, but I'll go with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's kind of where my head was at. I got some head shaking over there from Trevor. Trevor, do you think Michigan's going to get this win?
No, I just don't think it'll be close. I made a prediction at the start of the season that I thought Michigan would be unranked by the end of the season. I don't like that at
Wow.
all. I genuinely think they are one of the most fraudulent teams in the NCAA. They don't have a quarterback. Their offense just does not really move as much as they should have going from the start of the season, in my opinion. Then again, I watch football from my couch on Saturday, so I don't really have that much of an opinion. But yeah, no, I think. I love Illinois. I think they're a good team. I don't think they get talked about enough. Like you said, their quarterback is dangerous. So
Hmm.
I think that'll be a big one. But also Michigan
So
defense is good too. So
what I was gonna say, what's your opinion on USC then? Because Michigan picked up a win on them, and they're
yeah, and so that kind of threw me for a loop. I'm going to be totally honest with you because
yeah.
I was very much dead on Michigan, and then they did that, and I was kind of looking at it like
Hmm.
I was wrong, but I I don't want to call it a fluke game because it most definitely wasn't. But to me, I was
Yeah.
just kind of like, for me to go all in on them, I'm gonna need to see at least like a quarterback who they are reliant on, and I just haven't seen
Hmm.
that yet with them going through three in the last 4 weeks. So I mean, I think
Oh
that,
yeah, it's been such a mess over there with the QB situation.
and
And then
without a
again, you're
like
seeing USC looking very human as well. So it's like,
yes,
how
exactly,
great was that
USC's
win?
got their fair share of problems down there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
Oh my
like
gosh. At the
it
time of that game, I was like, holy cow, Michigan. Like, okay, they're back. But
yeah, exactly.
it's
yeah,
so the
USC
parity
threw
in
us in a
college
loop.
football. The parity in
USC
college football
definitely
right
threw
now is
us in a loop.
unreal.
Yes.
100%.
So yeah,
With USC going to LSU, beating LSU that first week,
Hmm.
and then they have 3 losses already. I mean, they lost to PJ Fleck in Minnesota. So if that just
Which
doesn't tell
is
you how like the parity in college football now, I don't know what will.
it's unbelievable. I mean, you're having Vanderbilt beating Alabama. Like,
Yeah.
who'd have
people.
thought in our lifetimes that you would see something like that? And
If you would have told me last year that I would have seen a sign that says "We want Vandy" on national television rather than "We want Bama," I would have not. I would have. I don't know what I would have said.
The
It'd
landscape
been a
of college
joke.
football is just crazy. Like this is I know it's like their whole marking point for their marketing. It's we've never seen a season like this, and that is without a doubt
Very
becoming more
much.
and more every single week. And it's
Mhm.
so fun to watch. It's so fun to watch.
And you're
It
seeing a
is.
lot
It's
of parity.
incredible.
You're seeing a lot of parity because of NIL. I feel like. What's your experience with NIL?
So obviously for me, I only got one season with NIL. Well, two seasons with NIL. But and I so like last year it worked a little differently than the year before. Last year it was if you were a guy who was going to play or they envisioned getting playing time, you were going to get NIL money. Obviously, it differed based off who you were and stuff like that. So I got NIL money last year, and it was really nice. It's really fun. It wasn't a crazy amount or anything, but it was great. And it changed from like the very beginning to what it is now. Like at the very beginning, it was kind of like you have to go try to get endorsement deals with different companies and stuff like that. You're advertising, and there's still a lot of that. But like with these like NIL collectives now, it's kind of like you're signed a contract with you signed a contract with the team or whatever. Like you're getting paid. I forget what it was. I think it was monthly, and obviously you still have to do things during that month to qualify for that money. Like you have to do some sort of NIL fulfillment in order to get that money. But it did feel a lot more like less like advertising based, and you're getting paid for your play on the field in a way or how hyped up you were. I mean, if you're a quarterback in the transfer portal and you were any good at your last stop, like you're going to be making bank at your next one. So I mean, the best way to do it and the way we handled NIL is you usually weren't talking about how much you were getting or how much the next guy was getting. And I think that's kind of the way it almost has to be in a locker room if you want it to stay cohesive, because
Well, I
you really
mean,
don't
you
want
saw
to.
what happened at UNLV.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, that's kind of unbelievable. I get both sides of it, but I just can't imagine, even if I was having an NIL dispute, I can't imagine
quitting on your
like
team.
quitting. Exactly. And that's
So
what
the
it was.
season.
He quit on his team
Yeah.
and you're the starting quarterback. Like, come on. And you're not they weren't struggling. They were what, 4-0 at the time?
Yeah.
They were undefeated. They were ranked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous.
yeah, with a win over our Jayhawks.
The
That's
Jayhawks, man. I was hoping for a bowl game versus the
I was
Jayhawks
hoping
this
for a
year, but
college football
that's
playoff
Yeah,
berth.
well, I
honestly,
remember. Okay, so I was listening to I think it was either your first or your second episode. And I was hearing you guys talking about Kansas and the college football playoff potential. And oh man, I was rolling. I was like, I can't believe this. This is unreal. Look at how far
Looking
we've
back on it,
fallen
we've had a
there.
lot of bad predictions on our podcast so far.
I
That's been
think
great.
the first episode I watched was your second episode, and I watched it after week 2 of college football. And you guys were batting a high percentage on those picks.
Don't let the NFL pick us.
Especially Trevor over there. Trevor was like 0 for 6 on his predictions that week. It was not good stuff.
It was not good. Yeah, no. But at least I'm not Brewer and I'm not 10 behind on the NFL pick'ems. So I mean, it could be a lot worse for me.
Hey, the Broncos won last night. We got one.
I think we all picked the Broncos there. So
yeah.
Yeah.
You're not getting
that one. I was riding with the Saints.
I will say this will be the last.
You were riding with Spencer Rattler?
It's the last time I'm ever going to pick the Saints and to pick them. It's the last time. They got me with that start of the season, dominating Dallas, looking like a just high functioning team. And now it's like, what? That's not the same squad. Like, what happened to them? I don't know.
What's crazy to me is the Saints at the beginning of the year through the first 2 games had 15 straight possessions end in points.
Yeah, and they can't get
that go.
Derek
Carr
can't do that now. Real, man.
Yeah,
but it was even before Carr got hurt. Like they started slowing down even before then. So it's like, what is going on there? Yeah. What is going on? They're cursed. Whatever it is.
He definitely fell asleep at the wheel. That is all we had for you, Jacob.
All right, I got one question for y'all because I want to maybe talk about one more thing. Who do you got in the Heisman race? Who's the hot feeling right now?
The safe pick is Genty.
Right? There's no way it's not. There's no way.
My pick is Travis Hunter.
I hate that. I really do.
If I'm gonna pick against Genty, I think I'm gonna go Cam Ward because I just really like Cam Ward and he's so calm and collected. But I think it's probably Genty or Hunter's thing to win.
He's having one of the best rushing seasons of all time. I know he's playing at Boise State, but like in my head, I'm comparing that to like what I saw Derrick Henry at Bama, Christian McCaffrey at Stanford.
Yes.
And it's like it's incredible what he's been able to do there. I feel like he's the favorite right now, but I just don't see how many people we've never in at least our lifetime seen someone play both sides of the ball. So
and he's playing both sides well too. It's not just like he's
it's at a high level,
just running around. He is making plays on both, which is just fun to see.
You see, let's say Genty stays on pace and breaks every record, how can you not give that to him? Like, assuming he performs to how people are expecting, he breaks every record from rushing. He rushes for over 2,000 yards in a season. How do you not give it to him? I don't care what Travis Hunter does on both sides of the ball.
It really is the best rushing season of all time versus the best two-way player season of all time. There's just more, I feel like, prestige with the rushing one because we haven't seen two-way.
Absolutely agree.
I feel like
Jacob, what do you have?
Yeah, what do you got?
I mean, I think right now I got Genty. He has to keep pace. If he keeps pace and he's out here getting like 200 yards a game and he's going to break multiple Barry Sanders records, like if he keeps pace, like how can you not give him the Heisman? You can argue the competition, but he did it against Oregon.
Like, he did do it against Oregon.
Yeah. He got like 180 and 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like
he was the only reason they were in that game.
He's a monster. So I think he's doing that against anyone. Doesn't matter who he's playing. And he's also getting these monster yards, and he's only playing like a half, 3/4 of football.
Yep.
Yeah. Because they're winning these games by enough. So it's hard for me to go against him. But obviously, I think it is a 2-man race, him and Travis Hunter. I don't think any of the QBs have been playing well enough to really compete right now. Maybe if like Indiana goes 11-1 or 12-0 undefeated, you can see Curtis Rourke like sneaking somewhere in the conversation. I don't think he'd ever win it, but like in the conversation for it. But it's like it's a 2-man race, and as great as Travis has been going both ways, we're seeing a historical thing on both sides with both players, but I just think Genty's been so unstoppable. And there's not a flaw in his game. If you look at him as a receiving back, He's a great receiving back. If you look at him as a pure running, like just power rusher, he can do that. He can make guys miss. He can run them over. He can pass block. If you look at his any
Yeah.
of his like pass protection snaps, he's putting guys in the dirt. He looks incredible. So there's like no weakness in his game. So it's almost impossible for me to go against him.
Yeah.
You think
Especially because like
you
you
think
got
Jenks
it.
is a first round pick?
I mean, if he keeps it up, how can you not? Like
Tough to call with the
I
running backs though.
it is, but you see it with like the elite running backs that the best of the best still get picked in the first round. You know, he had Bijan go in the top 10. So it's like, I think I would have to think that he could be a first round pick if he keeps it up. And if he tests well at the combine or at his pro days or whatever he ends up deciding to do, like if he tests well there, then I mean, it's a surefire prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is we're definitely blessed with how much talent we get to watch on Saturdays.
Hmm.
It seems like every year it's just getting better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, this has been an incredible season to watch. Like you never know, you truly don't know how any game's going to go. You know, you have Miami starting out looking like world beaters and then they kind of have to get saved by the ACC to keep their undefeated records. You know, you get Alabama looking like the best team maybe ever for a half of football against Georgia, and then they lose to Vandy the next week. It's just so unbelievable, everything. And like, yeah, I'm excited to see how this season pans out, like where everything goes.
Not to
Fingers
mention
crossed, Nebraska college football playoff berth. Fingers crossed, but
first year of the 12 team too. I mean, it's just we're blessed.
we are in Boise State. If they can go undefeated, what if they make a run? What if they
Right?
beat a couple of those Power Five schools? You know, GT runs all over them. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows?
We are
So
definitely living in a new world of college football, and it's getting more and more fun by the week. That is all we have for you, Jacob. I just want to say thank
alrighty,
you for taking your time to come talk to us. We
yeah,
appreciate it. I think we definitely learned a lot,
Yeah.
and I just want to wish you luck in med school. Not many times you see college football players turn to the med field. So good luck, and we'll definitely try to get back with you sometime soon.
yeah. Thanks for having me on. Anytime, fellas.
Thank you.
So much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll just
See you
end that
later.
recording here pretty soon, and we'll see you.